Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah, Sada Shiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. In our last session, we had covered up to the 28th verse. The summary of the last session is that in the 23rd verse, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says, Sattva Bhasika Chit va itara Satyahi Chit Chittayahi Aham. So, Sattva Bhasika. Now here, is there any other consciousness to illuminate this consciousness? Well, there is none. Chit qua va itara, qua va itara. Is there any other consciousness to illuminate the consciousness? No. Satyahi chit, chittayahi aham. So, because then it will be ad infinitum. Okay, to illuminate this consciousness, this is the consciousness which illuminates that one. So which one illuminates the other one? And it will go on like that. So it is not that way. There is only one which illuminates everything. So this has to be understood very clearly. And Satyahi Chit, Chittayahi Aham. That existence is consciousness, and consciousness is existence, and existence consciousness is the self. So without consciousness, existence will be inert, insentient. And without existence, consciousness will be non-existent. So they are not two different things. It is the same thing. So Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat. Existence is consciousness, consciousness is existence, and existence consciousness is the blissful self, the pure self. That is of the nature of infinite bliss. Then, in the 24th verse, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi spoke about Isha Jiva Yoho Veshadhibida Sat Swabhavata Vastu Kevalam. So, the difference between Ishvara and Jiva, it is only the difference of the conditioning or Upadhi, gross and subtle Upadhi. Subtle and gross Upadhis or the conditionings are different as far as Ishvara is concerned and the Jiva is concerned. But the essence, without this conditioning, what remains is the essence is the same. Divide of this conditioning, Ishvara and Jiva are the same. So, Ishvara represents the total gross body and total subtle body, whereas Jiva is an individual gross body and individual subtle body. So, it is limited to that. But in essence, if the conditionings are removed, what remains is only the pure self. Brahman, we have seen so many times, Brahman, the absolute truth, with the conditioning of Maya Shakti is called as Ishvara. And the same Brahman with the conditioning of ignorance is called as Jiva. So if this ignorance from the Jiva is removed and Maya Shakti from Ishvara, what remains is only pure Brahman. So the bheda between Jiva and Ishvara is of the conditioning, not of the essence. That is the same. It is, we have seen so many times this cause and effect thing. That which is all pervasive. The cause is always inherent in effects. Every effect has got a cause. There is no effect without a cause. And the causeless cause is the supreme. substratum on which all the effects are projected. And this causeless cause is also the illuminator of all the effects, the substratum as well as the illuminator. So, and this cause is, of course, all pervasive, and nothing exists other than that. Everything is an appearance only. So, therefore, in reality, that is only one. Without the conditionings, what remains is the essence only, the pure self, the supreme reality of Brahman. Then, in the 25th verse, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Vesha Hanita Swatma Darshanam, Isha Darshanam Swatma Rupata. Vesha Hanata. Vesha Hanata meaning giving up the gross and subtle conditioning upadhi. Now here giving up of the gross and subtle conditioning doesn't mean to commit suicide or destroying our gross and subtle bodies. Giving up here only means the I notion in the conditionings of gross and subtle body. I notion, the ego, identifying with the gross and subtle body and saying that I am this so and so, this body, this mind, intellect, sense organs, and so on. So, Vesha Hanata Swatma Darshan. When this identification is given up, giving up identification is actually dissolving the ego, getting rid of the ego or the notion of I notion in this conditioning called the body and the mind. That is Vesha Hanata. And that itself is Isha Darshanam, Swatma Darshan. So, what is God realization? God realization is a self-realization. Self-realization itself is God realization. This I have said so many times, maybe in the past also. Vedanta is the path of inquiry. And in the path of inquiry, we begin like a scientist. As regards other things are concerned, God, creation, heaven, hell, Swarga, Narka, and all that thing. Different religious texts, different scriptures, even in our own scriptures also, Upanishads also, there are different ways the creation is described about. Now, we do not know for sure. Everybody is talking about God in different ways, in different texts, different religion, and the creation. And of course, we will have our own questions also. What was God doing before creation? Where was he? What was he doing? And if he is infinite, why should there be a desire in him to create this world? Because arising of a desire in the mind is a sign of finitude, limitations. So all these questions will arise. So all those subjects or topics are in the realms of intellectual speculation. But our existence is not an intellectual speculation. It is an incontrovertible truth. No one can deny their own existence. Even an atheist cannot deny his own existence. So, that is, even if all the doctors in the world certify that exist, it is of no use. It is worth throwing into the garbage bin. So, the most important thing is that I exist. That is for sure. No one can deny that. Now, like all the scientists, what do the scientists do? Scientists have their own data. The facts, they work with the facts, incontrovertible facts, in non-deniable facts that is proven to be true. So with those facts, he starts his research work in the lab to arrive at a new result, new conclusion, new discovery or invention or whatever it may be. So the only known incontrovertible fact that is available at our disposal is our own existence. No one can deny his own existence. The non-deniability of our own existence, according to Vedanta, is the absolute truth. And according to Bhakta, that is God. So therefore, self-realization itself is God realization. So as a scientist, he starts his research work from the known facts, known incontrovertible facts. So also, like a scientist, we have to start our research work from the known incontrovertible fact. And that is, I exist, I cannot deny my own existence. And therefore, who is this I who exists? So we start our research work from here. Who am I? Am I the body? Am I the sense organs? Am I the pranas? Am I the mind and its contents called the emotions, feelings, and sentiments? Am I the intellect and its contents called the thought? Or am I an entity other than all these? And then here what Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says is that Isha Darshanam is Swatma Rupatah. Self-realization itself is God realization. When one realizes one's own real self, that itself is God realization. Then they are not two different entities. So something we do not know anything about God or something like that, but I exist, that is known to me. My existence cannot be denied. I cannot deny my own existence. So let us see who is this I who exists, whose existence I cannot deny, whose existence is my direct subjective experience. So the investigation should begin from there. Not the standard questions about which God is true, this religion God or that religion God, or where is God and what he is doing and all that thing, what was he doing before creation and all that thing, and why did he create the hell? He should have limited himself in creating heaven only. And why he created the world also. No need to create world or hell, only heaven only. So many questions will come. They are all in the realms of intellectual speculation. So here Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi goes straight to the subject. No beating around the bush. Veshahanata Swatma Darshanam, Isha Darshanam, Swatma Darshanam, Swatma Rupata. So the self itself is the supreme reality, that itself. Without the conditionings, the gross and subtle conditioning, what remains is the supreme reality. Then in the 26th verse, he said, Atma Samsthiti Swatma Darshanam, Atma Nirdvayat, Atma Nishtata. Abiding in one's own self itself is the Swatma Darshanam, the vision of the self or self-realization. Now, Darshanam, generally, it is meant that, okay, I saw somebody and things like that. But here, Darshanam has got a different connotation, not seeing with the eyes. So this has to be understood very clearly. Otherwise, okay, I can see the self with my eyes. No, because eyes are a limited organ and it cannot function without consciousness enlivening it. And therefore, eyes cannot see that which enlivens it. Our intellect cannot comprehend and know that which illumines or enlivens the intellect. So, because intellect itself is a product of ignorance. If there was no causal body, there wouldn't have been any subtle or gross body. Causal body is nothing but ignorance. Because of the ignorance of the self, then the subtle and the gross body manifested. And then all this samsara began. So without that, without the ignorance, it is the pure self only. So abiding in our own self. Knowing the self is being the self. So self is not an object of knowledge, but it is the pure subjective awareness. Therefore, it can't be seen like we see other objects with our eyes. No. To perceive, to have the perception of our own real self, comprehension of our own real self, what is required is the eye of wisdom, jnana chakshu, not charma chakshu. So as we see other things, it cannot be seen with the eyes. There are limitations to that. Then in the 27th verse, Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi says, Jnana Varjita Ajnana Hinachit Jnanam Asti Kim Jnatumantaram. So now, here it is very clear that Jnana Varjita, here Jnana means the thoughts of knowledge. Jnana Varjita is devoid of thoughts of knowledge, Ajnana Hinachit, and also devoid of the thoughts of ignorance. We have two things, some things we know, some things we do not know. So, I have knowledge of some things and I'm ignorant of certain other things. So, I know that I know certain things and I also know that I'm ignorant of certain things. So, I know my knowledge also of whatever the subject I have. I know my ignorance of certain subjects also. And the pure self, pure awareness or the pure knowledge is beyond this thoughts of knowledge and thoughts of ignorance. So, this thought-based knowledge, thought-based ignorance, it is beyond that. Buddhi is jada, and therefore inert or insentient, it being inert and insentient, it can't know. It knows only to the sentiency that is imparted by consciousness. So, therefore, knower is different from both the known. Whether he is knower of, whether it is knowledge or ignorance, the knower of both is different from all these. Therefore, consciousness or pure self is other than the knowledge, ignorance, objects, emotions, thoughts, desires, everything else. It is the illuminator of everything, and therefore it cannot be illumined by that which is illumined by the self. So that which is illumined cannot illumine that which illumines it. So this is very important. Of course, the scriptures, by the study of the scriptures, we get rid of the ignorance. We have the knowledge, but this knowledge is called as paroksha jnana. Now, when we study the scriptures, we are acquiring the knowledge and the ignorance of that subject is removed. But this knowledge has to be converted. Paroksha jnana has to be converted into aparoksha anubhuti. So this objective knowledge has to be converted into subjective awareness. That takes time. And that happens only when the ego gets dissolved. When we rise above the thoughts, because ignorance is also thought-based, knowledge is also thought-based. And then when we go in search of the source of the thought, so that there everything gets dissolved. Source of the thought. From where the thoughts emanate, because the source has to be other than the thought. So therefore, it will have no thoughts. So, beyond all the thoughts remains the pure self. And this pure self illumines both the thought of knowledge also, thought of ignorance also. Then, in the 20th verse, was said, Kim Swarupam iti Atmadarshane Avyaya Abhava Apurnachit Sukham. So, what is the nature of this self? When it was investigated into, that is when the self-realization happens. And what is the self-realization? Avyaya abhava apurna chit sukham. Avyaya, undecaying, not subject to destruction, not subject to modification. Abhava, unborn, uncreated. Apurna, Purna is complete, Apurna is incomplete. This Apurna means fully complete or infinite, one can say. Chit, of the nature of pure consciousness. Sukham, blissful. So blissful awareness. Chit, blissful awareness. So our goal is always sukha, we have seen, but what we get is dukkha, because we seek sukha in those entities which is anitya, ephemeral, and devoid of any iota of happiness. That is where we seek sukha. So therefore, we are always dukhi only. Some kind of pleasure, joy, or happiness we may get experiencing something. But then, due to our ignorance, we do not know. There is no inherent joy, pleasure, or happiness in the things that we have experienced. Only it is our inner joy or bliss that has been projected on that. And then we think that it is coming from that. Like the famous example of the dog chewing the bone and the sharp edges of the bone piercing his inner side of the mouth. It starts bleeding and he sucks that. He thinks that the juice is coming from the bone. You know, this is exactly what it is. There is not an iota of happiness in the external world, in this Ananta Koti Brahmanda. And all that is there, that is again ephemeral, temporary, impermanent, fleeting, momentary, and devoid of any happiness there. And we keep seeking there. And that is where the net result is we are not very happy. Even after the experience, maybe during the experience for a few moments, we feel a little happy or some pleasure or some joy is there. After that, we are back to square one. Either we are getting bored or we become miserable. Because only temporarily our mind was free of any desire, and the desireless state of mind was giving us calm and peace and some kind of pleasure. The little bit of glimpse that we get of Paramananda is in the deep sleep state. Nobody can wake up from a deep sleep state and say that I didn't know anything, but I was miserable. No. I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it. Such a deep sleep, I enjoyed it very much. That is where we get a little bit of glimpse of our Paramananda, of our own self. So, that is an important thing. Avyaya abhava apurna chit sukham. That is the Swatma Darshana. Now, that was what was discussed in our last session. Now, in this session, we begin with a new shloka, shloka 29. बन्धमुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखं विन्दति ह जीवस्तु दैविकः बंध मुक्ति अतीतम परम सुखम विन्दति इह जीवः तु दैविकः. Now, Vindati iha. Vindati gains in this very world, iha in this world, Vindati iha. Jivaha tu Daivikaha. Jivaha, a rare Jiva, Daivikaha with some divine qualities. He gains that. What? Bandha Mukta Atitam Param Sukham. He gains that infinite bliss which is beyond the bondage and liberation, moksha, bandha and mukta, atitam, beyond that. Because actually this bondage and liberation, they are illusory notions only. That is in our own mind. Jiva bhava itself is a bandhana, is a bondage. Jiva bhava we get because of our identity with our body. So that itself is a bondage, jiva bhava. So that is only in our mind, bondage and liberation, that is only in our mind. Whereas that pure self is beyond the illusory notions of bondage and liberation, bandhana and moksha. It is not there in reality. The feeling of bondage and liberation is entirely only in our mind. It exists only in our mind. It is a notion. Like the ghost in the post. The notion of ghost was only in our mind. The snake in the rope, the notion of the snake was only in our mind. It was not in reality. Ramak notion. So these illusory notions we have in our own mind, and that is creating problem. And when mind is absorbed in its source for some time in the deep sleep state, we have absolutely no problem. See, this mind plays all the tricks with us. There is a story. There were three villages, and there was a central point from where the road, three roads went to these three villages. Central point was there. There was a huge tree in that. And from that central point, one road went to one village, another to another village, and third to third. Now, there was some kind of a rumor that the tree which is there in that central point, on that tree, there is some kind of a spirit or ghost. So, usually after sunset, whoever is there in whichever village, if they are from the other village, they don't go there, they remain there only until morning. So, one day there was a marriage in one village, and some people were invited from the other villages also for that marriage. So, in one village, there was a kind of a toughy bodybuilder, Pelwan. So, he was also invited for that wedding. So, he also went there. So, after the wedding got over, was late night. So, the host told that this bodybuilder also that you stay back. Why you need to go now to the other village? And then the ghost is also there on that tree. Now this Tuffy thought that if he remains here, then the villagers will not respect him as a Tuffy. He is also scared of ghosts and things like that. So he just said that, oh, I'm not afraid of any ghosts or anything like that. And I don't believe in all these things. Okay. So he left the village and he was walking toward this village. And of course, in between this center point will come where this tree is there. So while he was walking, he left the village while he was walking, he came across another person. So he thought, oh, good, I've got a company. And the other person also thought, okay, I've got a company. And this guy is a toughie. So they both were walking and then they reached to that central point where two roads lead to different villages. So this guy will go to his village, the other guy will go to his village. So they reached there. Having reached there, this Tuffy, he paused for a moment and was looking at the tree to find out where the ghost is. And then when he finished observing the tree, when he looked around, the other man who was walking with him, he had disappeared. He didn't see him. So he thought, hey, all the while the ghost was walking with me. What a fool I was. And he got so scared that he started running from there towards his village and stopped only after he reached his village. And then he was having fever and everything for a few days. What happened in the meantime was the person was walking with this Tuffy. When this Tuffy was observing the tree, the other person went behind the tree to light a bidi. He wanted to smoke a bidi. So he went behind the tree to light it. And when he came from behind, then he saw that this Tuffy has disappeared. Hey, I was walking with the ghost himself. What a fool I was. And he got so scared, he ran to his village. and both were afflicted with fever and they were in bed. Now, where was the ghost? The ghost was not on the tree, it was in their mind. This is exactly what it is. The notion of bondage and liberation is in our own mind, because we have lived millions of lives with these notions. And to come out of this notion is not so easy. Forget about this, which we are following for millions of lives. Some habit we develop in this very life, how tough it is to get rid of that. Some funny notion we develop in this very life. At some point in time in our life, we develop certain funny notion, and to get rid of that, how tough it is. It is not easy. Eventually, we do get rid of it. We have addictions also which we have developed here, and to get rid of that, how difficult it is. And now this ignorance we are following, we are having it for millions of lives together. And it is all notions. It is all Brahmak, illusory notions. So this is what it is, and this is causing us trouble. It is all in our own mind, and nowhere else it is. Like the circus elephants. When these elephants are young, so they have to train from that time itself. So they are tied with just a rope around their legs. At that time, of course, they are very weak. They can't break through that rope. But once they become adult, they are nearly 2 tons, weighing 2 tons and all that, then they can easily break through the rope. But no, but that in the childhood, the notion was in his mind. I cannot break through. Because as a child, that baby elephant must have tried his most to get rid of that rope. He couldn't. So now it is there in his mind that I cannot get rid of this rope. So that is how he grows. And as an adult also, that notion is there in his mind. As an adult, he can easily break through. He must be about a couple of 100 or 200 kilos when he was a baby, but now he's at 2 tons. He can easily break through that, but that notion is there in his head and he cannot get through that. So he's only that illusory notion is preventing him from breaking away from that rope. This is what exactly is happening to us. We also develop some funny notions in this very life, and to get rid of that also is not so easy. What to talk about some illusory notions that we have been carrying for lives together, that I am this body and I was born sometime, I will die one day, and all that nonsense that we have been carrying. So that will continue like this. So it is rising above that. This is what is important here. So bandha mukta atita param sukham. Beyond this bondage and liberation is the supreme bliss, supreme infinite bliss. Su is sushtu and kham is space. So sukham is nirmal ananda, pure bliss, like the space. Space always remains pure, uncontaminated by anything that is happening in space. So sukham. So this dukkha, sorrow, misery or pain, that is the bandhana. That is the bondage and nothing else. That is the highest bondage, suffering, misery, sorrow and pain. And Paramananda is, of course, liberation, moksha. The self is beyond this bondage and liberation, bandhana and moksha. As regards sun is concerned, for sun there is nothing like this day and night. The division of time as day and night is only from our standpoint, because a few hours we are in the dark, a few hours we are in the sun, in the light. As regards sun is concerned, 24/7, 24 hours, every moment, it is in the light only. So the sun doesn't have any notion of day or night. Sun doesn't have any notion of darkness or light also. Darkness it doesn't know, and light is known that this is light in comparison to darkness. So that is also not there. So it is beyond this day and night or darkness and light and all those things. Light and dark, day and night. So that is exactly what the self is. Self is beyond the bondage and liberation. That is where Paramananda is there. What is holding us from having that experience, or rather, we should not call it an experience, because when we say experience, that means there is an object experienced. And then Triputi will come. The experiencer, object experienced, and the relationship between the two called experience. So it is only blissful awareness. Where there is no Triputi of experiencer, experienced, and the experience. Knower, known, and knowledge. Something like that. So now here, Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi says that Vindati iha jiva tu daivikaha. A rare person, a rare jiva with some required qualities only realizes it in this life. Oh, so if it is a rare entity who realizes it, that means I have to count myself out. It is not so. Like in every field in the relative existence also, if we have to attain something, we need certain qualities, certain skills, certain talent, certain knowledge, certain qualifications to attain something. Now, if somebody says that I want to win a gold medal in the Olympics, okay. So, to win a gold medal in the Olympics, he has to be very good at one of the events that is conducted in the Olympic Games. And then he should be so good in that in his own country that he should be selected to participate in that Olympics. Having entered the Olympics, then he has to be very good to make the finals of that event. And then having made the finals, he has to have an exceptional talent and skill to win that and then get that gold medal. So everybody can't do it. We need to have some special skills for that. Similarly, in the field of knowledge also, if somebody wants to become a chartered accountant or a doctor or an engineer or something like that, they have to have some minimum qualification. They have to qualify to enter the institution from where they can study and qualify as a chartered accountant or engineer or doctor and so on. So certain qualifications are required, and it is not that we cannot achieve it, attain it. We can acquire it if we want to. So similarly, for this spiritual seeker also, some qualifications are required. Who is the adhikari? Everybody, there is some kind of adhikari for every field if you want to achieve something, attain something, acquire something. We need the right qualifications, right talent, right skills, and so on. Whatever objective you want to achieve in this world, in the worldly life. Similarly, in the spiritual life also. And here, the important thing, who is the adhikari for this path of inquiry, the path of knowledge that we are studying? The adhikari is Sadhan Chatushtai Sampanna. Sadhan Chatushtai Sampanna is one who has got this Viveka. Viveka is having the ability to discriminate between Nitya, Anitya. What is eternal, what is ephemeral? Nitya, Anitya. Then what is Sat, what is Asat? What is real, what is unreal? Then what is Atma, what is Anatma? What is self and what is not self? So one has to have that Vivek or discriminative intellect to differentiate between these eternal and ephemeral, real and unreal, self and not self, and so on. So that is called Viveka. See, this is the, in Sadhan Chatushta, this is the first qualification we need. Second qualification is Vairagya in Sadhan Chatushta. Of course, we have seen this. It is just a revision for us now. Vairagya means what? Having no desire whatsoever of anything in this world or any other world. Some may say, I have no desire of anything in this world, but I want to go to Swarga, or I want to go to Tapolok or Janalok or Brahmalok and all that thing. No, no. No other lok, neither here nor anywhere else. No desire absolutely of anything in this existence, in this world or other world or the Ananta Koti Brahmanda, nothing, no desire whatsoever. That is Vairagya. So Viveka Vairagya, that Shat Sampatti. Shat Sampatti, that sixfold qualities we want. What are they? Shama. Shama is the control of the mind. First is Shama, control of the mind at the mental level. Then that is not listening to the mind. Like Gurudev, Param Puja Gurudev used to say, what is freedom? Not doing what the mind tells you to do. That is freedom. So not listening to the mind, mind should remain within the discriminative intellect. So mind should follow what the intellect dictates it. It should not be the other way around. That the intellect is a slave of the mind. Whatever one fancies, one does. No. So Shama is the control, perfect control of the mind. Dama is the control at the physical level, the organs of action. If I have to go here, I have to go there. I will not go there. I will not go here. That is not required unnecessarily. So control of the mind, control of the body at the physical level. Shama, Dama, then Uparama. Uparama is the ability to withdraw the mind from the external world. Mind will keep wandering into the external world as long as it thinks that it can derive some kind of joy, pleasure, or happiness from the external world. Once it realizes that there is absolutely no trace of any, no iota of any joy, pleasure, or happiness in the external world, why am I wasting my time, energy, and money, and effort, and all that thing? Then only the mind will withdraw. So, Shama, Dama, Uparama, withdrawal of the mind within. And then Titiksha. Titiksha is ability to bear. Certain things are there, we take precautions, and even after that, if it is still there, then like if it is cold, we take some precautions against cold, but after wearing sweater and cap and shawl and all that thing, still we feel cold, then we have to bear it. Similarly, if it is too hot, we take precautions and all that thing, and we still feel hot, then we have to bear it. That is called forbearance. So titiksha. We have to take precaution. It is not that in the peak summer time we have to go and sit in the sun. Oh, I'm practicing titiksha. No, that is nonsense. So, titiksha, forbearance, then shraddha. Shraddha is extremely important on the spiritual path. Whether we are the followers of the path of devotion, bhakti yoga, or the followers of the path of knowledge or inquiry, jnana yoga, shraddha is utmost important. Without shraddha, we cannot progress. Forget about the spiritual path. Even in the worldly life also, we cannot progress without shraddha. Shraddha has to be there. Shraddha has to be in four things. In fact, if we wake up in the morning, without Shraddha, we cannot live. Even worldly life also, we cannot live without Shraddha. We have Shraddha. When we sleep in the room also, we have Shraddha. We have surrendered at the feet of the ones who have built the room, that the ceiling will not fall on me. If we have even slightest doubt about the room, that ceiling may fall on me, will not sleep there in that room. So very fact that we are sleeping there, that means we have Shraddha in the person who built it. When we get into a vehicle, we are surrendered. Shraddha in that vehicle, it will not break down. And Shraddha in that driver also, that he will not cause accident. If we have any doubt about the vehicle or the driver, will not get in that vehicle. So Shraddha we have in our day-to-day life also. Without that, this life will be miserable. Everything, if there is no Shraddha, then there is a problem. So any food that comes, no, this food I have to get it tested from the lab. Then only I can have it. Because I don't have Shraddha over the people who brought the food or the ones who cooked it or what. I have to have it tested in the lab, then only I have it. No? Without Shraddha, our life will become, worldly life itself will become a hell. So we have Shraddha, no doubt about that. But where should we have Shraddha now? Four places are important. Shraddha in the existence of the absolute truth. Shraddha in the scriptures, which talk about that absolute truth. Shraddha in the Guru, our Sadguru, who imparts that knowledge. And the most important, Shraddha in our own self, that we can attain it. If somebody says, I have got Shraddha in the existence of the absolute truth, in the scriptures also, in the Sadguru also, and everything, but I don't have Shraddha in myself, I don't think I'll be able to attain this. It doesn't work there. Shraddha has to be there in all that. And in our Vedanta, Shraddha is not permanent. Shraddha is only temporary. We keep Shraddha in something which we do not know now. And once we know, then it is not the matter of Shraddha, it is the matter of our own knowledge. It is like this, in schools we must have studied about the different planets in our textbooks in science or geography. Some astronomer discovered different planets watching through the telescope and all that. Of course, we have kept Shraddha in that astronomer who detected it, who discovered it through observing the telescope, though we have not seen it. Then we go to an observatory and we get an opportunity to see all those planets ourselves through the telescope. Yes, I have seen that Jupiter with the Saturn ring around it and all that thing. So now, earlier it was Shraddha, now it is my direct subjective experience. I have seen it myself. It is no more a question of Shraddha. I know that there is a planet called Jupiter, it has got a ring, Saturn. So similarly, in Vedanta, Shraddha is only temporary until you know. Once you know, then it is not a question of Shraddha. Nobody says that I have Shraddha in law of gravity. We have studied law of gravity. Anything that goes up will come down. There is a gravitational pull. Nobody says I have got Shraddha in gravity. I know the law of gravity. There is a gravitational pull is there. So once you know, there is no question of Shraddha. Then it is our knowledge. So in Vedanta, Shraddha is temporary. We keep Shraddha in something that we do not know now, so that ultimately we'll know it. And once we know it, then it is not a question of Shraddha. It is not a question of faith. So the Shraddha is very important in the spiritual path as well as in the worldly life. Then in Shat Sampatti, the last one is Mumukshu, Samadhana. Samadhana is equanimity. Equanimity in both good and bad times, in positive and negative experiences, and so on, in Sukha and Dukkha, not losing our mental balance. When some news comes, happy news comes, we don't go over the board. Or when some negative news comes, or negative event happens, we don't lose our sanity. So remain equanimous, whether it is win or loss, happiness or misery, and so on. So that is called as samadhana. So this Shat Sampatti has to be there. So Vivek, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, and the fourth qualification required is Mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam is a burning desire for liberation. Mumukshutvam. A burning desire for liberation means what? I do not want anything. I just want to know myself. Who am I? That itself is liberation. Getting out of this birth and death cycle. I do not want to take any form ever again in any loka. That burning desire has to be there. That is called as mumukshutva. If suppose somebody doesn't have the three above qualification, Vivek, Vairagya and Shat Sampatti, but somebody has this mumukshutva, a burning desire to know the self, a burning desire to get out of the notion of this bondage and liberation, getting out of this birth and death cycle, that itself is enough. That seeker will develop the other three qualifications also. Now, when we come to the scriptural studies, it is not possible that all of us will have all this fourfold qualification, sadhan chatushtaya. But even if little bit we have, we can develop it. Some viveka is there, some vairagya is there, some of the shat sampatti we may have, that can be developed. And therefore we have adhikaris also. Adham adhikari is there, madhyam adhikari is there, uttam adhikari is there, ati uttam adhikari is there, because of the levels of shat sampatti that we may have developed in ourselves. So therefore, one should not get what you call disheartened that, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I have this problem and that. No. Vairagya can come anytime, Viveka can awaken also. And we are already on the spiritual path. We have been listening to the scriptures for so many years together. It's about time it starts fructifying now. So, Bandha Mukti Atitam Param Sukham. It is beyond that, the Param Sukham, the supreme infinite bliss. And this is attained by the right Adhikari who has got this guna in this very life. This is the beauty of Vedanta. There is no promise of posthumous achievement. Okay, after death you will go here, you will go there and all that thing. No. Here and now. Vedanta talks about that. That is the most important. Now, having said that, we come to the concluding verse. Concluding shloka is Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam mahadidam tapo ramanavagyam aham apetakam nijavibhanakam mahad idam tapah ramanavagyam. So, aham apaitakam, that is this devoid of this ego, then it is nija vibhanakam. So minus the ego, then what remains is the pure self only. And then Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi says that mahad idam tapah. This tapa is very great. These are the words of Ramana Vagyam, these are the words of utterance of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi, who had the direct subjective awareness of that absolute truth, the self-realization. So, this tapa, when it is said, we may have some wrong notions about this tapa. What is this tapa? Tapa, we have heard about in the Puranas and of course the Itihasas also. Some people doing great tapas for years together, all that thing. But actually, tapa is not the torture of the body, gross physical body. So, highest tapa is dissolving the ego. That is the highest tapa. And we cannot dissolve the ego by torturing the body. Ego can be dissolved only by the self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, there cannot be any bliss, peace or bliss or anything like that. Karma and all, they have got their limitations. Karma cannot give us liberation. Karma can only give us, we have seen Karma Yoga in the first 3 slokas. It is only for purification of the mind. If there is a dark room is there, we can't throw out bucket loads of darkness out. No. We have to bring in the light. If ignorance is there, nothing can get rid of that. Only knowledge can get rid of ignorance and nothing else. So, the highest tapa is acquiring that knowledge, getting rid of the ego, so-called ego, understanding that. So, Ramana is also Sundara or nice, beautiful. Tapa is to rise and Pata is to fall. Tapa has got another meaning also. Tapa means from Tapaman Tapa comes heat, Ushnata, heat. So heat is also used to purify, like for example, gold is purified through heat. We remove impurities from gold. So also this tapa is also a type of a heat. What does tapa do? Tapa roasts the vasanas which are in the seed form so that it doesn't germinate again and trouble us. Because from the vasanas only the desire comes up. From time to time, from the subconscious mind, because of the vasanas that are there, the desire will keep coming up to the surface of the conscious mind, and that causes trouble. Then we are engaged into action, karma, to fulfill the desire, and all that thing is there. So, this is what it is, and what is the Sarvocha Tapa, the greatest tapascharya, austerities, or the spiritual practice is getting rid of the ego. The destruction of the ego is the highest tapa. See, now this, where we have to use mind and the intellect. Mental work needs, of course, more concentration and is therefore subtler and superior to physical activity. Thinking of objects is easier compared to thinking of concepts and ideas. That is subtler. And contemplation of the source of thoughts needs even highest concentration. It's not easy going to the source of thoughts. Source of thought is thought-free state. So, from the sound comes, sound emerges from the silence only, and it merges back into silence. So the source of sound is silence, and that which is beyond sound and silence is the supreme reality. So, concentrating or contemplation on the source of thoughts needs highest concentration because it is beyond thoughts. Source of thought is obviously beyond thoughts. Therefore, it is the highest tapa. It destroys the ego. It doesn't nourish or fatten it. So that is the highest tapa. And then here, now with this, it ends here. Samapta. Samapta is samyak apta. Samyak is complete or completeness, and apta is gained. So, gaining of completeness is samapta, samyak apta. So here ends this Upadesha Saara of Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi. And we pray to the Lord that as Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi realized that absolute truth, we also realize that without exception, we are all the same. And this is the prayer, our silent prayer to the Lord. With this, we conclude this beautiful text called Upadesha Saara. Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi, 4 parts, he beautifully condensed it for us. In 3 shloka, he finished off the Karma Yoga. And then another 7 verses Bhakti Yoga and 6 verses Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and the remaining verses, he completed the Jnana Yoga, 14 verses. So, and in brief, if you have to say, Karma Yoga is for the purification of the mind. Bhakti Yoga, devotion. Bhakti is from Rupa to Nama, from Nama to Swarupa. Worship of the Rupa, chanting of the name of that Rupa, and then going beyond the Rupa and Nama, going beyond the ideal, going beyond the Rupa to the Swarupa, realizing the Swarupas. Realization of Swarupa itself, the realization of our own self. Then in Dhyana Yoga, Dushyavaritam Chittam Atmana Isha Darshanam Tattva Darshanam. Withdrawal of the mind from the objects to the thoughts of the object. So focusing, shifting the focus of the mind from the objects to the thought of the object, then again shifting the focus from the thought of the object to the illuminator of the object, or the source of the object, to the illuminator of the object, or the knower of the thoughts of the object. So the illuminator of the thought of the object. So that was dhyana. And then in Jnana Yoga very beautifully he has put it. It is the destruction of the ego. The bondage and liberation, bandhana and moksha, they are only illusory notions we entertain in our mind. And going beyond that, tracing the source of all the thoughts, these notions are in thought form only. Going to the source of the thought, we realize our own self. With this, we conclude this beautiful text, Upadesha Saara. If anybody has got any questions, they may ask.
Any question? Swamiji, the burden of asking question falls on me. Now, Swamiji, short and sweet yet very profound book. My take home is only one thing. Take care of your ego. Now, with reference to this ego, this morning I was thinking about that every day we go to deep sleep. Every day. Meaning the mind goes back to its source. Mind goes back to the substratum or self. And again, next day morning it rises. When I say mind, it is the ego which goes to sleep and rises in the morning. And then whole day it plays around in this plurality in the form of different thoughts. And again, at night it goes. And this has been happening in our life since our birth. And this will also happen next birth and then after, if provided we get moksha. So Swamiji, after thinking deeply about it, I feel that this self, the substratum, or the pure consciousness, which pushes the mind outside sheerly to play around. Today morning I heard one story that a boy wants to play cricket. So he brings his ball, bat, stump, everything, and collects the other children. And he bets. He bets until the time he gets out. And after he gets out, he collects bat, ball, stump, and goes home. Similarly, is happening with our mind when we get up from our deep sleep. Swami. Plays around and then again. To realize that this is a play going around, and I'm just a watcher or a what do you call a witness to what is happening in my mind on the playground of my. I think this itself is a reliever,
Hmm.
isn't it, Swamiji?
Adhyatmic sadhana begins for a seeker. The first step is being a witness.
Hmm.
That is the first step. Earlier, of course, we were just going with the flow. But now, once we become the witness, witness of what? Being the witness of the thoughts that are going in our intellect, being the witness of the feelings, emotions, and sentiments that are going on in our mind,
Hmm.
being the witness of the speech that comes out from us, or being the witness of the actions that we are doing.
Hmm.
So, the first thing that a seeker has to do is start being a witness. In ignorance, we were not witness. It was just happening, we were doing it, and we didn't bother about observing. Now, when we start observing, that is the time that we stop flowing with the thoughts or flowing with the feelings and emotions and sentiments and things like that. So being the witness is the first step. Then we can withdraw from that. So first is that when we are told to observe the mind, of course, most of us or almost all of us, we end up observing the content of the mind.
Hmm.
So, okay, so that is being a witness to the contents of the mind, contents of the intellect, our own speech and action and things like that. Then at some point in time, we have to withdraw from the contents of the mind to the container.
Hmm.
Then we realize that divide of contents, there is no container. Then we are alone there. Now here in the deep sleep also, what happens is, ego is absorbed in source as long as we are in the deep sleep state. So it is absent temporarily. And when we wake up again, it appears from somewhere. That means ego is not required for our existence. Without the ego, we merely slept nicely.
Hmm.
And it didn't affect our existence. The ego was absent temporarily, it didn't affect our existence. So, fattening the ego and weakening the ego, we have to observe that what are the things that makes our ego strong? How can we weaken the ego? So therefore, if we observe around us also, the person whose ego is very strong,
Hmm.
they are the most miserable person. Weaker the ego, happier the person. And of course, the egoless one is in infinite bliss. So that can be known whether we are getting affected by what is happening around us, or how, who behaves how, in which way with us, whether that agitates our mind, oh, he misbehaved with me. He shouldn't have done that way. Or he did like this or something like that. Is it hurting my ego? So therefore, spirituality is 24/7, 24 hours, every moment job. It is not a part-time job. 10 minutes in the puja room, I'll do my spirituality. And then remaining 23 hours and 15 minutes, what will I do? Any which way I live? No. Spirituality is 24 hours. We are on the razor's edge. If you mean business in spirituality, that is how it should be. So, first being a witness to what is happening around us, what is happening inside us, in our intellect, in our mind, our speech, our action, and then observing and then changing continuously. All that is not required for our spirituality, we discard it, we change it. Most important thing is that how do we do that? That those things should not affect us at all. When we are not on the spiritual path, it was affecting us. But now that we are on the spiritual path, it should not affect us. That is very important. We get easily affected by all those things. Okay, in ignorance, one can understand, but not in knowledge. At least we have got paroksha jnana. And we also know that whatever we gather from the external world is creating impressions on our mind. These impressions become vasanas. and tendencies. So we should not allow those to create any impressions. If impressions have to be created, let it be spiritual. Let it be related to spirituality alone, deeper and deeper. So that is how we can progress on the spiritual path.
Swamiji, the bottom line is, without the content, there is no container.
Yeah.
Without the thoughts, only self is there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Without thoughts, there is no intellect. Without emotions, there is no mind. So we become a witness to the contents of the mind and intellect, and then we shift our focus to the container instead of the contents. Like shifting of the focus from the object to the thoughts of the object, from the thoughts of the object to the illuminator of the thoughts of the object. Again, we go blank after that. So that is how continuously that is there. Whenever we are there and some thought process, if we have to be a witness to that. And then, where has it appeared? It has appeared in the intellect. So forget about the thought. Let me observe the container intellect. Then we say that without thought, there is no container called the intellect then.
Thank you very much, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Swamiji, this book makes me amused of the time as an ignorant. To a certain extent, I'm still ignorant. I'm not saying but the thing is, it keeps me amused because when we were not on the spiritual path, ego was understood as ahankar. Coming onto the Gyan Marg, we realized that that was a foolish thought to think it as the ahankar, because there's a lot more deeper meaning than ahankar beyond it for the ego. And now looking at it, at the concluding part of this book, it is just a so simple thing. If we break the word ego, it says e-go, means ephemeral go. So it is basically when, I mean, it is really taken us internally to just, negate, and negate.
Until nothing remains to negate.
Nothing remains to negate. So it is really an amusing path.
It is amusing, and that is why in Taittiriya Upanishad it comes in how does the master know that a disciple has realized the truth? He laughs. He laughs 3 times. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is said that ha, hu, ha, ahamannam, hamannado, hamannadah, and so on. It goes on. So the master knows that he has realized the truth. Now this disciple, on realizing the truth, he laughs 3 times. First time he laughs out of sheer first-time awareness of that infinite bliss, he laughs. Second time he laughs because it was so simple. Why was I struggling? So second time he laughs. And third time he laughs, thinking that what if highest fool I was, stupid idiot I was, in my ignorance, what foolish and stupid things I was doing in this world. Thinking of that, he again laughs. So he laughs 3 times. Anybody else have got any questions? Shall we conclude?
Yes, Swamiji.
I invoke Param Puja Gurudev's grace and blessings on all those who are present here today. May he guide us in our worldly life as well as on the spiritual path. May he grant us progress and success in our worldly life as well as on the spiritual path. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.